Everybody here? Great, Carl. Yep, great. Hey, well, kia ora, good afternoon, everybody. Pretty exciting day today. We're introducing to the Parliament the Online Safety Bill, and it's something that I know a lot of parents and principals and kids themselves have been advocating for. I think you heard some very powerful testimonies as to why this is the right thing to be doing to protect our kids and to be standing alongside parents in what is a really tough challenge. And so, yeah, pretty exciting day. Sorry? Sorry. Well, again, we're introducing the bill to the House. We won't, with 11 days to go, to be honest, get a first reading in. It'll be something we have to pick up on the other side of the election. But I hope that many other parties will look at the bill and say, look, that's a really sensible proposal. I can tell you we've spent a lot of time thinking through how other countries have approached it, thinking through making this the best possible approach we can, engaging with lots of people. Erica deserves tremendous credit for all of that. I'll let Erica talk to that because we have been in conversations with them. Yes.
Yeah, thank you. We are introducing a bill. Everyone will be able to see the bill. An extraordinary amount of work that went into it, and I've been working really hard with communicating with Labor over the last 5 months, multiple briefings, having complete access to my officials, multiple chances to read the bill, including handing over the bill, which was a bit of a process legally, last week for a whole week. Look, we know that lots of parties in this Parliament care about our kids and protecting them, and we've given Labor every opportunity to be able to see the bill and discuss it with us. They've asked a range of questions, and we've been very forthcoming with the information that we've given them.
Is it appropriate to be progressing a controversial piece of legislation as a government bill when two of your coalition partners don't agree?
Oh, what's appropriate is to be standing up to protect our kids. That's what's appropriate, and I think we see the evidence. Sorry. No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, parties will form their own views around it, and that's perfectly reasonable, and coalition parties will do the same. But the reality for us is that we have heard loud and clear in our conversations with parents up and down this country for some time that there is a need for us to make an intervention to do something. We had the same challenge, the same pushback in many ways as I alluded to in my remarks around the phone ban. A lot of people thought that was going to be impossible. It wasn't actually supported by... No, for sure. But I'm just saying to you, we think this is the right thing to be doing, and it's the right thing to be doing to protect our kids.
Cabinet operates by consensus. How can you say that you have the consensus of Cabinet to do this?
Well, Cabinet has, in a coalition government, it's unprecedented. We're a three-party coalition, as you well know. We have mechanisms called agree to disagree, where parties can, differentiate publicly. They can actually also vote against the bill as they wish as well. And so that mechanism is there for exactly that reason. But for us, this is about protecting our kids and making sure that we're doing everything we can to make sure that they're safe online.
If you don't think you're going to get the first reading before the House rises, why not be absolutely sure that you have the numbers to pass it?
Well, again, we're introducing it into the House. We're introducing it. It's coming at 4 o'clock today. And again, as I said, we've got 11 days to go. We've got a big legislative agenda. The reality is we're not going to get through to first reading. We've got the RMA to do. We've got a lot of important bills to get out the door. But we'll pick this up on the other side of the election. But I think this is the right thing to do. And we're standing beside parents here who are wrestling with this issue and have felt out of control. We're standing beside principals here who have felt out of control. We're standing most importantly beside the kids who actually feel it's out of control as well. And so, I appreciate political parties will form their own views about it, but we've introduced it to the Parliament. We'll get to go through the election process. People can come back and weigh it all up, and we'll go through a normal process: first reading, select committee, second reading, third reading. And there's encouraging signs. We have spoken to some other parties, and all parties are aware of what we're doing. And the more parties that want to come on board, fantastic. I mean, for us, it's not a political thing. It's actually a Kiwi thing, and that's what this is really about. And that's what we really want the other parties to think about too.
Why have you drawn the lines where you've drawn the lines? For example, why is online gaming carved out of it, and websites like 4chan, which arguably can be much more harmful than the likes of Instagram and TikTok, are they included in the bill or not?
Yeah, look, this is a first piece of legislation. It is extraordinarily complicated, and we wanted to make sure that we got it right, and so we're talking about social media and those platforms. There is nothing to stop future governments in the future to look at things like gaming, pornography and other things that you've mentioned. But it is extraordinarily complicated, and for us, we wanted to make sure that we got this right, and that we also are in lockstep with other similar countries, like with Australia, the UK, the EU, and some states in America, to make sure that we're all linking arms on this and all doing a very similar thing, but there's nothing to stop us bringing those into the piece of legislation. So you have to understand, at the moment, we do not have a piece of legislation that protects our kids online. Almost every other country we compare ourselves to has something like that, and this forms the basis of what we can use in the future.
Sorry, Richard? Yeah.
Why did you show the bill to Mr Peters only on Friday? I mean, how much good faith is involved in that?
No, that's not true. We've shown it to all the parties in the coalition in different incarnations. Yeah, well, I can let Erica talk to that because that's not the case.
The bill has been circulated for a number of weeks. It's been with all parties. In fact, I offered New Zealand First a full briefing with my officials, which they accepted, so they certainly have had the Cabinet papers for a really long time.
So just back to the question of what's in and what's out.
Yep.
Some of the criticism will be that if you ban the likes of Facebook or Instagram, where these kids are already, they might look to go to more of those dangerous platforms like 4chan. So what can you do to stop it effectively getting around the bill and going to more dangerous places on the internet?
Can I firstly just say that when I talk to parents, from all the experiences that I've had, the harms that our children are facing are on social media. They are working out how to cut themselves using the blades of pencil sharpeners on Facebook and on TikTok and on Instagram. That's where they're seeing that. That's where we see our young people experiencing harms from. Of course, you'll always have that argument around the slippery slope, and the key thing is this bill sets a framework where we can include other things in the future. But the most important thing is the only reason that young people know about those other platforms is because of the social media they're on in the first place. You know, I want to come back to that main point. When I speak to parents around the country, from all the experiences that I've had, our kids are experiencing social media harm. That's where they're seeing these harmful algorithms that we are no match for.
And the next question is what the Australians are learning a lot. If you're not going to get anything past this side of the election, why not pause, see what they learn, match it once they've got it right?
Well, I think we have. I think we've been watching and observing very, very closely what's happening in Australia and other jurisdictions around the world as well. And we've actually been able to build in to our legislation, the learnings that we've seen. But regardless, the fact that I've heard some people say, well, only 35 to 40% of Australian kids have got out of their accounts in the last 12 months. Well, it's 35 to 40% of kids that are now off their accounts, and actually what we're trying to do here is to make it the new normal. I mean, I was talking to some of the kids before, and I was saying I came through an era in schooling where actually you didn't have to have a bike helmet in primary and intermediate school. And then eventually at intermediate school it became a law or became normal that actually everyone wears their bike helmet, and then it became abnormal when you didn't have a bike helmet on. And it's no different here. So this thing is done through a continuum, in the sense of yes, I've heard some people say, well, why would you bother if Australia's only got 40% of their kids off their social media accounts? Well, actually we bother because there's actually 40% of kids off their social media accounts. And if we're striving for perfect, that is the enemy of doing anything. And the same reason kids will always find ways around our alcohol laws, they find ways around our social media laws, that's to be expected. But we actually want to normalise this behaviour for the next generation that's coming. Sorry.
How are we going to enforce the financial penalties? I think the fact sheet talks about a percentage of the global turnover. How are we going to get those platforms to actually front up and pay that money if they don't comply?
Well, I think there's real, Erica talked about it, I think there's real power in the fact that we are acting in concert with many other countries around the world. There's probably, 20 that are in process, 42 in total maybe, that have sort of been working in the space. You're seeing a number of US states, whether they're Republican or Democrat states right now, are suing the big tech firms for those breaches. And actually the fact that we've generated 10%, I think, of global revenue is actually a very sizable way in which all jurisdictions, locking arms together, actually stand up to big tech and send a message very clearly. If I'm a CEO of one of those big tech firms and I have a whole 42 countries that have a similar framework and a similar approach, I'm paying attention to that, and that's the way that we get their attention. So,
Do you expect Meta is actually going to pay up 10% to New Zealand if it fails to comply?
Well, again, we're part of a global network of countries with similar legislative frameworks in place, and that's what we're working towards. Yeah, but sorry, I'll let Erica finish up. There's anything else to say?
Yeah, and the Prime Minister is exactly right. When we looked at Australia, the UK, the EU, we looked at what they are doing. And if you look at the EU and the UK, they are doing very similar, 10% or 6% of global profits. But that's at the very top end you're talking about. There is a range of interventions right down to warnings and education at the very start that work their way up to something like that. But it was really important for us to be in lockstep with everybody else, because I can tell you something right now for free. Meta is not getting out of bed for $100 million. They're probably not even getting out of bed for $200 million. And they know that, and so do all of the other countries, which is why we are making sure, like I've already said, that we're in lockstep with every other country, because Australia are doing exactly the same, the UK, the EU, 42 countries around the world, all looking at linking arms, and we are part of a global movement to protect our kids. This comes back to those people in that room in there, the health professionals, the education professionals, and the young people, who will tell you about the harms that have been caused by social media, and that's why we're doing this.
And can I just say, sorry, I just want to add to that, which is that, I would encourage you, go sit down with some of these young people. You saw a really powerful video with, Erica talking to young people. I've done similarly, Amanda and I have done similarly in the past, and it's really quite interesting when they tell you their stories, right? Sit down and listen to the Jonathan Haidts of the world and others, and actually hear what's happening around the world and the damage that's happening. So I think this attitude of, it's not going to be perfect. We're not admitting that it can be perfect, but actually we should try, shouldn't we? Shouldn't we try? I mean, isn't that what we're here to do? Yeah, sorry, sir. Yep.
Some of the most well-financed companies and agents in the world.
Yep.
How does it not just become the cost of doing business in these jurisdictions? Like, even though it's quite a large fee, we know that they fight these cases for the long term. Is there any alternative way that you can sort of see a controversy?
I'll let you talk.
Yeah, you can already see this playing out overseas. You can see those 26, I think it is, states in America, bringing Meta in cases to court with huge potential financial implications. Going back to what we said earlier, it is all about being in lockstep with everybody else. That is going to be the key to our success, which is why we worked so closely with the Australians to make sure that the penalties, the definitions, we did make some tweaks because the Australians didn't quite get everything right, and some of the things now actually they're going back and doing what we're doing. But the key thing for us is all to be on the same page, because you're right, they don't give a damn about our kids, and they will pay, which is why it was so important to have that percentage of global profits, and we're in lockstep with other countries on that.
Okay, sorry, mate, you go.
No.
Who paid for it?
I won't tell you right now, but it wasn't made with public funds. We paid for that ourselves.
The National Party paid for it?
We paid for it ourselves.
Can I cover it that it was the National Party that paid for
I didn't ask the National Party head office for any funding. So. No, it was not paid for by any of the people out there or any of the... It's already on social media. The full one will be, yes, eventually.
Hey guys, we'll take 3 more questions, right? Henry.
That kind of law would put scare off investment that was totally the wrong message to send to big investors around the world. You're now proposing a 10% of global revenue fine on them. Do you not think there's a chance that some of these companies pull out of New Zealand?
No, we are aligned with many other countries that are wrestling with the same problem. This is a global issue for all parents and kids and governments around the world. And as I said, we've worked really hard because we've actually been a fast follower. We haven't actually been out front leading. We've actually had the benefit of actually seeing how other jurisdictions do it. And I think having common legislative framework is actually very important.
$35 billion fine. I think in New Zealand court is everyone up in down. That's 10% of the pennies globally.
Well, I'm just saying to you, we're building a common legislative framework across the world to make sure that we can send a message to those powerful tech companies to say you have to take these issues seriously. I would say when you see a collective of 42 countries that have similar legislative frameworks, ultimately, that is the sort of signal that actually you take. You'll go, I'll do something about it. I'll actually change it. I'll actually listen to that, and I'll do something about it, as they should. Yeah. Okay, 2 more questions. Ethan. I'll come back. Ethan.
Once this legislation is enforced, we will be in a situation where there will be age-checking systems on YouTube, but not on pornography sites. There's going to be a long time before this legislation comes into force. We've got an election, a scrutiny process. Is it something that you will look at to include in the legislation further down the line?
Yep.
As I already said, the key thing for us in this piece of legislation is looking at social media. There are other harms online. This bill gives us the framework and future governments to make their own decisions. We wanted to get this right. As you can see, it's very technical. We wanted to get this right, and then we have, the very first ever online child safety piece of legislation that we can use in the future. But right now we're focused on the harms of social media.
Let's get this done and let's get it right. Let's get it working. Let's get it out there and actually happening, and then we can talk about what comes next. Okay, sorry guys, hang on, stop. Are there any more questions on the announcement today, and then we can go to issues of the day? Yeah. Sorry.
How long would you expect it to take to set the regulator up? We talk about that's kind of building what's needed before you can even enact any penalties. So how long would you talk?
Look, it's going to take some time for us to get the bill through. It's going through a full select committee process. We want to make sure that we're not truncating that, and we will want to go out to the public to hear what they have to say. And there may well be improvements to the bill. We've already set aside some funds in this year's budget to provide for that regulator, but we know we can get the regulator up and running before the end of next year to make sure that it gives us enough time to bring in the regulator when the legislation is due.
Okay, 2 more questions on the announcement, then we'll move on. Bridie?
I've met with some of the tech companies and they make all the same excuses that you would expect them to make. Oh, but we're trying. But there's worse things out there, at which point I say, what, worse than learning how to self-harm on your platform? At which point, they sort of walk out with their tail between their legs because they know the harms that their platforms are causing. So, I expect that they will come out in the next few days.
Okay, Tom, we'll go one last question on this announcement.
Is it right that someone who is 50 or 60 years old would need to submit their ID to be able to join the social media platform? You reference in your fact sheet about Leon who doesn't want to give his ID details and instead needs to give his credit card details to celebrate. Why should he have to do that?
Look, there's loads of different things that you can do to assure your age, that you are over 16. Many different things, as I've already mentioned, like you say, credit card details, your email, your phone account. There's a whole range of things. For most people, they won't have to do anything because they're already on social media. So there will be nothing there. It was really important for us.
I think you're safe.
I think that the key thing was important for us was to say that they cannot ask for identity alone. They've got to be a whole range of things. And we see overseas it's working quite well.
One technical one thing, the EU model has a more duty of care model where it says that the platform itself needs to take steps to make sure that its platform is working and not harmful rather than content. Can you explain what sort of approach you took to that and why this one is a little bit different?
Yeah, look, in this bill, as the first step, in lockstep with Australia, we're asking social media companies to recognise and tell us what their harms to children are, all children. So that is your endless scrolling, your notifications, your harmful content, the algorithms, all of those things are designed to keep young people scrolling and are potentially harmful. List those and then tell us what you're doing to mitigate them. What you're talking about is safety by design, which is a potential thing for us to do down the line now that we've got this piece of legislation. Yeah, well, it's pretty obvious when you go onto those platforms what their harms are for a start. But as you've seen, there is a framework of penalties if they do not do that. But again, it comes back to why are we trying to do this? The most important thing is not only the age restriction, but changing social media's behaviour. Yeah. And we've modelled this on what Australia are doing. List your harms, show us what you're doing to regulate them and mitigate them. And then in future, there is a possibility of strengthening that if future governments decide to, like the EU have, which is more of your safety by design, like you can't operate unless you have, settings that are set to private, or no infinite scrolling, or no harmful algorithms. But that's the next step.
Okay.
Further to that question, really quickly, sorry. What we saw with the Christchurch call was this big kind of flurry of activity. Everyone got on board with it, and now none of those same safeguards are in place. So what do you do to make sure that this isn't just another fad of governments telling the social media companies that they need to clean up their act? They clean it up for a year and then they go back.
I think if you go watch all the Senate inquiries that have happened, say in the US over the last 4 years, Actually, you look at some of the actions that, either Republican, as I said, Florida, Democrat states took in the US over the last 4 years or so. This is a really endemic issue that's across all countries are wrestling with it, and actually the realisation after several goes at it is actually to have a common set of legal frameworks that are actually all implemented, and we do that increasingly in lockstep and together, while coming from different starting points, and everyone's got a different sort of regulatory background or a different legislative background, but all ending up in a place where we can actually be joined up on it is really different. And I think when you've got specific legislation to deal with a specific challenge, as imperfect as it will be, but actually that it captures and does a big part of the job that we need to do, and that it's aligned with others, that you're acting with like-minded countries and parents and kids and friends, sending the message to the tech companies, say, hey, you have to listen to this. You can't do divide and conquer. There is some power in a weight of countries acting together in the way that they are. And I think, and these are very specific bits of legislation, I'd say, put it to you, than what I observed through the Christchurch call. This is very specific stuff, and very consistent principles being brought up across different jurisdictions. Yeah, so we'll leave that topic. Are we all good?
Yes, I can speak to that. I think it was 4 o'clock on Friday, or maybe 3 o'clock on Friday. They gave us a few additional questions, and we've preparing those over the weekend. So we should have those to them shortly. It was quite a long, detailed list. Nothing, particularly insurmountable. They're just actually intelligent questions, but nothing of serious concern.
And as I said, we don't want, we're happy to engage with any political party on this, because it's about the kids, not about political parties per se. Right, can we move on?
A couple of questions. We're going to go.
Yes.
What specifically did you do in Australia, and what did you change from?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. I can tell you. I mean, for a start, one of the things that Australia did was allow a checkbox, "Are you old enough?" tick, which we have specifically said you cannot do. That was really important. They had a different definition, which they've now changed. I think they're looking to change to something similar to ours, which actually lists the criteria of harm. Their penalties also, they've had to increase their penalties, so which is why we've taken a different step in lockstep with Australia, the UK and Europe as well. So there's been a number of small things and a number of big things that we've done a little bit differently because we learnt from them. They've been extremely generous in their time and helping us along the way.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I'll go to Jenna, mate, because she was first wanting to go off topic. So yeah.
The Queenstown Mayor says you're panicking. The Auckland Mayor says his regional deal is not worth the paper he's written on. He's thinking of ripping it up. Why do you all that?
Well, better starts with no new taxes from National. That's what it's about. And so I just say to you, we're being very clear to the New Zealand public that this election is a pretty stark choice. You want no new taxes from National or 9 new taxes from their Labor mates. With respect to the accommodation levy, what we're saying very clearly is we fully identify with the problem. We're well aware of it, mixed-use infrastructure, costs of tourism, and we are committed to finding alternative mechanisms for dealing with that. But when we looked at it, there is no way that you're not going to be levying a tax on New Zealanders going away for a weekend to Queenstown or to Auckland.
Will you increase the tourism levy?
Again, there's a range of scenarios. We're not going to predetermine any outcomes. Suffice to say the message to the mayors, to the councils, to the communities is we hear you, we understand this is a problem, we know it has to be solved, but we are not going to solve it by levying a tax on New Zealanders who just want to go away for a weekend. And that's why... Well, I'll tell you... Henry, I'm sure you're all over it, but you remember 2020 when Chris Hipkins and Jacinda Ardern said that they wouldn't introduce anything more than the 39% tax rate. And what do we end up with? An extension of the Bright Line from 2 years to 10 years. And the Auckland Regional Fuel Tax, actually. There's a number of things they introduced right in that period of time. So I just say to you, you can't trust Labor on tax. National is very clear. No new taxes under National. Simple as that.
I mean, in the last campaign, you campaigned really heavily on localism, on restoring power to
exactly.
local communities. Here you've got an opportunity to do that, and you've rejected it.
We're just coming to it saying we're going to solve this problem in a different way. It's going to be a different solution to the problem that currently exists. And so,
the solution you're imposing not a solution
No.
for local councils.
We had a commitment to explore an accommodation levy in 2027. That was the commitment the government made. What we're saying is when we look at that, we cannot see a way in which you don't end up levying a tax on New Zealanders. And we're not prepared to put a tax and a cost on Kiwis who just want to go away for a weekend and end up getting hit with that. So we'll find another way. If there's a number of vehicles and mechanisms we can use to do that. We understand the challenge really clearly, that we've got to deal with the costs of tourism. We have to deal with the mixed-use infrastructure challenges that exist there. And there's a number of ways that we think we might be able to do that. We'll do that as we do that on the other side.
Will councils be able to get the same level of revenue, and if not, you're introducing rates caps on them, how are they supposed to pay for anything?
Well, again, rate caps is actually very important, so you don't have increases in fees and charges, which is really important across New Zealand. But that's correct, and this is a government that does believe in infrastructure. This is a government that actually gets things done. It doesn't just talk about doing things. And so what we're saying to you is that we think there's mechanisms and mechanics that we can deploy that actually deal with the challenge, which is infrastructure challenges that they have, where there are real pressures. I'm not going to predetermine those outcomes. You know yourself, there's a range of it. Sorry? There's lots of different ways we could come at the problem, but there's a different set of solutions. I'm not going to get into that. I'm not predetermining that. But I want you to be crystal clear about, what you can be crystal clear about is there's going to be no new taxes, no new levies. Sorry?
Will you put a fee on the Great Walk?
Sorry, there's no new taxes, no new levies from National. And just go compare that list of, just a capital gains tax, an inheritance tax, a wealth tax, a gift tax, a land tax, an increase to 45% income tax, actually a business tax taking $5 billion off small business up and down the country. You know what I mean? Where does it stop? I'm telling you, that is not the answer to New Zealand. It's a very simple choice this election. It is spend more, tax more, borrow more. Better starts with no new taxes from National, not 9 new taxes from Labor and its mate. So it's a lovely slogan they've got. It's a wonderful slogan, but I just say to you, it's better used that way, I think.
Will anyone pay more next term under National than they're currently paying right now in tax to the government?
We've been very clear that we're not introducing any new taxes. I cannot be clearer. No new taxes versus 9 new taxes from Labor and their mates. Okay, team, I think we're done. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.